Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Reedmaker. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe, please? And maybe even notify, and this way you will always know when I drop a new episode, and also it'll make it easier for other people to find my channel and watch it and become better, faster reedmakers and happier musicians. So, win, win, win. Thank you so much. Today, I wanted to address a question that I've gotten from several people, which is something around how do I know that my reeds are good enough to start a reed business? And I want to start by telling a story, which is that it's not a specific story, it's a general story, but it happens to me not infrequently. I'm a pretty good reed maker. I like my reeds. I can consistently play on my reeds every time I show up in public, like my oboe plays. And I have a reed business, and I sell over 200 reeds a month. And sometimes when I know the person on the other end, or when they have reached out and made themselves known to me and said, here's where I went to school, here is where I studied, here is the kind of thing I like, can you help me? And I always say yes. And what that really means is that as I'm selecting reeds to go into packages that day, I handpick something that I think is extra nice for that person who has reached out. Side note, you don't need to reach out in order to get a nice reed. I really always try to send competent reeds, as I will continue to discuss in this very video. But for these people for whom I have hand-selected a reed that I think is the very best of the batch, I'll send it out, and I'm not going to say every time, because by no means is it every time, but it is not never that person will reach out again afterwards and say, your reed, it's too hard for me, it doesn't have a response, it's too closed, it's too open. And the message that I've gotten from this used to be, oh, I'm a terrible person and I'm a terrible reed maker. And now, after having some variation of this story happen over and over again, I've just come to realize that everybody doesn't like the same thing in a reed, which already you knew that, right? So all I can do is make a Jennet Ingle reed as best as I possibly can. And all I can do is make sure that it is balanced and hits objective measurements, right? That it is objectively a finished reed by its length, and that it crows a C, and that for me here in my studio in South Bend, it plays just fine. That is what I can do, because I can't actually make a different reed that isn't mine. I know that other styles of reed making exist, but what I make is my style of reed. And plenty of people like them, and I like them. And so this is not a video of me going, oh, poor me, people don't like my reeds. Most people like my reeds fine. But what is a great reed for me might not be a great reed for somebody else. So when people ask me, how do I know if my reeds are good enough to have a reed business? I say, first of all, maybe you don't, because guaranteed your reeds will not be perfectly suited for every other oboist in the world. And there will certainly be some people out there who don't like your reeds. And doesn't mean that your reeds are bad. It just means that there are people out there who won't like your reeds because they like something different in a reed. They need a different kind of resistance or a different kind of response. Fine. So to answer that question, I would say maybe it doesn't matter how good your reeds are. Good. What matters is how replicable are your reeds. How consistent are your reeds. If you make 4 or 5 finished reeds, and then you let them sit for a day, and then you pick them up and you just go down the line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and play them, are they all sort of within a comfortable range of responsive, of balanced, of stable? If you pick up your reed that you haven't warmed up on, that you haven't played yet today, and you soak it up and you throw it on the oboe and you go, can you predictably make a nice sound on it? Or is there some possibility that reed that you are playing for the first time today is going to go, "Ah!" when you start to blow on it. If you can consistently play an array of your reeds, and if most of the reeds that you make can fit within that standard, even if not everyone is your actual favorite, that to me says that you are a consistent reed maker with replicable results. And there's gonna be somebody out there who likes the style of reed that you're making, assuming that your reed is, good enough for you to play, if your reed is good enough for your students to play, if some other human besides you has picked up your reed and gone, yeah, okay, I can play that, and you can play it, and you can, without stress, and I suppose this is the next set of ideas, if you can replicate that reed over and over again without feeling like you're glued to your reed desk, making a 45-minute reed laboriously and hoping and praying with each new blank that it's going to turn out okay. If you can successfully do that, then you might be ready for a reed business. If you are still running your oboe life on a reed-to-reed basis, if you are still sitting down at your desk and stretching out and taking deep breaths and then going in, hoping, praying that this reed will actually work for you and not really positive that it will, that's where I would say you might not be ready for a reed business. Now, I will also say that a reed business does tend to take that tension and preciousness out of your reed making. If I only have to make a reed for myself, I want my time to be as efficient as possible. If I only have to make a reed for my concert this week, I am going to sit down and I'm going to choose the very finest piece of cane that I have, and I'm going to shape it very carefully, and I'm going to wind it with special attention, and I'm going to scrape it and try not to mess it up, because I want this one to work so that I can stop working on reeds and move on with the actual interesting parts of my life. But if I have to make 10 reeds and one of them's for me and the other 9 are going out to somebody else, it's not that I will make my for sale reeds with less attention to quality than I use with my own reed. Certainly not. But it is that I don't have time to be so precious about it. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to batch my way through the day 1 scrape, the day 2 scrape, the day 3 scrape on these 10 reeds. And at the end of that time, I expect that 9 of them are going to be just fine. And, maybe one fell apart on the way or got its corner nicked off by some naughty reed maker. I expect that 9 of them will be fine. And one of them will be mine, and the rest of them I'll send. And it will be fine. And I never had to get emotionally attached. How do you know when your reeds are good enough to start a reed business? If you are able to non-emotionally consistently replicate a basic reed that is basically good enough for you to play on, you're probably ready to start a reed business. And you might find it really valuable. I certainly have in my own life. It's lovely to have the side income. It's lovely to have contact with oboists all across the country. And it's lovely that because all I do is make basic reeds all day long, I always have a reed to play on. There's always reeds. It takes a lot of the emotion and the angst out of being an oboist. I hope that this was helpful. This has been a 5-minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos right here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish, and I hope you will. If you need to reach out to me to order reeds or cane, to order a copy of my book, The Happiest Musician, or to find out information about some of the classes and webinars that I'm offering, I have a Reed Business 101 session coming up later this month. You can find all of that information over at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.